I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the czar of the virtual background, the one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Zini, 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. And joining us is the very one and only Michelle Betos of Racing Louisville FC. And honestly, this is actually really cool, Michelle, because as a new expansion franchise, I'm guessing this might be one of the first few podcasts of content that's coming your guys' way.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the locals have been pretty excited, so they kind of got on it pretty fast, kind of getting us one by one as getting our initial reactions to the stadium and things like that. But this is definitely probably one of the first.
Well, guys, for earlier, if you guys weren't on earlier on the live stream right here, Michelle first came on and she was sideways, and we're like, oh, is that like an artistic choice? Is that the direction she's trying to go?
She had a quick comeback though. She's like, I was diving.
Yeah, you would think after quarantine I would have figured the Zoom thing out, but I'm still not there.
That's all right. I just told Mike I put my ring light up and I got like 5 boxes stacked up. It's above it and the backlight's not right. I can't get this right either.
Yeah.
Oh, Omar, your expertise is in need here, sir.
I lost you guys there. What'd you say?
I said your expertise is in need. I need help with the ring light and I need a virtual background for tomorrow. And so,
boy.
So yeah, you're staying on after the podcast.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. Don't worry about
it.
Michelle's like, oh, I didn't sign up for like a tech support like podcast. I'm not sure.
No, I'm thinking these are good
Geek
resources.
Squad.
I probably should have called earlier.
Yeah, just always go to Omar.
Good to know.
Oh my
Omar,
gosh.
if everything goes awry, just go to Geek Squad. You have a job.
I'm with you. Yeah, I agree.
So now, obviously, Michelle, you were an NWSL Goalkeeper of the Year. Omar Zini is so well known on social media. Saskia won a World Cup and is a co-owner at Angel City. But have any of you guys been invited to do a Q&A on Zoom comedy in the Netherlands next week? Probably not.
Okay,
Wow.
so I'm gonna give you, if you
Yes.
say Hafla Dama.
Khafkhala Dama.
There you go. That's
What
like
did I just-
shit or like excuse
Oh, that's
me,
fun.
everybody out there,
Oh,
or
that's
like
fun.
blank damn it or what damn it. Basically, we'll dumb it down right now. Because I am half Dutch. So
Okay.
Well, that's fun. I'm sure the
well,
AI.
I heard that my entire life growing up from my mother anytime I did it. So it's resonated in my head. There's some other words, but I can't say those.
All right. Well, we don't want Omar to have to throw that explicit E logo on the show right here. So let's get a little bit into this. Before we get into the topic, Michelle, for maybe some of the people out there who might not be familiar with kind of this new expansion franchise you guys have. Obviously, Saskia's dogs are very excited about Racing Louisville coming in.
Good. All the buzz.
Yeah. Why don't you tell them a little bit about the franchise and how you ended up over there?
Yeah, I mean, so I was picked up in the expansion draft in November. The cool thing is that Louisville had this in the works for, a couple years now. I think they were smart to, announce they were coming in and then take their time to really get everything ready for us. And it's been an interesting thing because I think outside looking in, people really don't know what to expect. I think even, my coach at Reign was French and he was like, what is Louisville? Has no idea where it is or anything. So I think there's a lot of unknowns about it, but I think I'm just so excited for people to come in and have the same initial reaction we all did. I mean, the facilities are incredible. Top to bottom, it's just been so incredibly professional. And yeah, I think that this is where the league is trending, where the league's trying to go. You have Angel City and them coming in. I just think that it's so exciting to see, places like this come into the league and, start moving us forward that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I shout out to Lavender Legion. They seem to be really supportive of you guys. And for those guys who are not familiar, that's the supporters group for Racing Louisville. Saskia, you were actually bringing up the logo a little bit, and you said there was something in the logo, and I had no idea what you were talking about.
Well, it looks like there's a fleur-de-lis in the logo, correct?
Yeah, there is. They're on all the street signs too. It's something native to Louisville, which I didn't know till I got down here.
Yeah, I didn't know either because that's very like
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yep.
That's New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that either. But yeah, it's a big part of the culture. You see it on all the street signs. It's part of the history of the city and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
That's super cool.
See, Omar was looking at it and just going,
You're
like,
going to have to research what a fleur-de-lis is.
I'm definitely going to have to. But I think Omar was looking at it and thinking about his fantasy team for next year for American football and going like, man, I need to pick up Alvin Kamara for next season. That's what's happening with me.
No, I was thinking of the stadium looks sick.
But if you can, yeah, the stadium does look sick. If you can grab, like, that's such an iconic piece of American history to have the fleur-de-lis as a logo. So, like, to be able to have that as your logo, as part of your logo, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a proud city. I mean, they've been so excited. I mean, obviously COVID has made things more difficult and a lot of things are closed and restricted, but they've just been so excited. All the fans, everybody, I mean, as soon as I got picked up, I had messages about coffee shops, bars, restaurants, hikes, everything. I mean, they're just so proud and they just want us to see the city. I mean, our nurse like doubles as a general manager at a club downtown and she's like, you guys gotta come here. We're like, okay, like,
so if anything happens, I'm here. I gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you guys going to be able to have fans opening day? Is that the plan?
I don't know that yet. I don't even know if they know that yet. I think that's just, they're figuring out the protocol, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think that the way everybody's handling fans and stuff, even with us with UCLA right now, I mean, we got cutouts in the stands and it's actually fun that, every time I walk by, like, I'm like waiting to see one of my parents. Like, I swear to God, I'm going to see a cutout of my parents. It's gonna send me back.
Susk, you guys need to get a cutout of Omar in his Pro GK Academy pose in the stands right there, right behind the goal, doing like a breakdown or something.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think I can afford that.
Yeah, you got to pay for it.
Oh, that's where that UCLA donor money comes in right there, right?
No, but it's awesome coming into a new city, and I can speak for that with Angel City and stuff like that. Like the reception's incredible, and the grassroots and everybody being excited, young girls, young boys, everybody, and to be a part of the start of something, you have to be totally stoked about that.
Yeah, it's such a cool opportunity. I mean, I was part of the first team in this the first year in this league, but to come in now and just see the way they're doing it and their plans, their future, they're constantly thinking forward, which when the league started, who knew if there was going to be a future? So the fact that they're coming in, they're building for the future because they know it's going to be there. You look at our academy, they're running the same sessions we are. There's a plan to build this into something really cool, and I mean, I already feel like it's there. So yeah, it's been so exciting.
That's awesome.
I mean, and for a lot of people out there who are kind of unfamiliar with, kind of obviously NWSL, who maybe, let's, say listening, in another part of the world or whatever.
Or under a rock.
Or under a rock. or under a rock. Actually, everybody probably knows about NWSL by now. Why did I even
That's why I'm here, Mike.
Throw myself under the boat. The league is so deep, and like people like Michelle obviously was an NWSL goalkeeper of the year. I mean, you're talking, that's the caliber of type of goalkeepers that are consistently in the league. I mean, from the 1 to the 3, Michelle, you obviously had a situation, when you were at OL Reign where you and Casey Murphy, were both there at the exact same time. And either one of you guys, there's no such thing as a number 2, really. I mean, there's that world-class goalkeepers, pretty much down the depth chart.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I started this league playing with Hope Solo, followed it up by training and playing with Nadine Unger. I mean, the goalkeeping caliber. I mean, you look at Orlando and they have Erin McLeod and Ashlyn Harris. I mean, there's just so much talent in this league, in this country, in the goalkeeping pool. So I think, it's exciting because I think you're competing and getting better every day. You're bringing out the best in each other. So, I mean, it just keeps getting better and better because I think we're always pushing each other for that day in and day out.
Yeah. And I think we can all know that that's one of the hardest things about being a goalkeeper. Your depth chart is, you can have the 3 best goalkeepers in the world on your team and one's playing.
Yeah.
The novices out there have to realize that. And, with you, Casey Murphy, and look where you both are right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think either one of us saw this year going this way, but I mean, I also think we're happy with the way it worked out. But
It's
I mean,
kind of
yeah,
cool.
I used to always joke with Jasmine Spencer. She's been my roommate for a long time. I'm like, you did this right. Like, you're forward. You show up for 10 minutes at the end of the game. You score a goal. Nobody cares about the mistakes you made. Like, and you're the headline. Like, it's just wild. Like, you have to kill yourself every day to be a goalkeeper just to get a chance in the game, and then you have to go be perfect. Whereas
I know.
Forward. And I just think that should be, that should be taught in the academies. Like, day one, look, this is what you signed up for. Like, yeah, you're having fun now. But,
I always laugh at myself because it's like I was like over 200 caps in like 50 games. Like,
yeah, it's like, crazy. Yeah.
But that's the reality of goalkeeping. But with that being said, you never know what your opportunity is going to bring you. And even if you're sitting in number 2, even if you're sitting in number 3, and that's why I say that. Look at you, look at Casey Murphy, look at that, look, and so don't give up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I think that's like during COVID and like when everybody was trying to figure out how should we train? What should we do? I was just like, I think the goalkeepers like prepared for this like our whole lives. Like that felt normal to me. Like I was preparing and training every day for something I didn't know what it was, and I think that's like the life of a goalkeeper in the professional league. You're training, you're playing, you're getting ready for your shot. You just might not know when it is. And that's, that's what like 2020 felt like. So that was, not as uncomfortable to me as I feel like a lot of the field players trying to figure that out.
No, I love that. I need to play this for my UCLA goalkeepers because no, I'm serious because like, I thought one of them was going to be able to get subbed in, and I take it to heart and personally, and I, she's always prepared and stuff like that. And at the end of the game, like there were tears welling in her eyes because we didn't sub the goalkeeper. And, I said, I know what you're going through. I know what you're feeling. I said, but stay the course because you never know. Please stay the course. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, kind of getting into the topic right now, like one of the reasons like we wanted to have Michelle on right here is because of what we're talking about, the depth right there. And one of the reasons that Michelle's been in the league for so long is because your balance into the final action, Michelle, is fantastic. I mean, I think your shape staying forward, you being disciplined, not biting, that sort of a thing is really, really awesome. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to kind of have you on for this topic right here. For maybe some of the parents out there who might be listening, who might not kind of be familiar with what we're referring to, what do you think about when you think about balance into that final action, to that shot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I'm always trying to work on, and it's, a never ending process, but I think like getting that perfect set where you feel like you can do anything out of it. You can use your feet, you can dive, you can jump, you can move out of it smoothly without any extra movement. And I think that that's actually a pretty tough thing to do, to get in that perfect set that you feel really good in, and something I'm always working on. So yeah, so I think just talking about that balance is how well can you move out of it? How efficient can you move out of it? How quickly can you move out of the position you're in?
What's really good about that, Michelle, is that Omar, I know that when you've done a lot of the breakdowns, a lot of times, and it's been the maturation of your content as well too, is that you've been focusing a lot on that starting positions, that shape, getting into position, rather than just at that final action what the shape is like.
Yeah, I don't think enough people discuss that. I think we talk about it all the time. When you're watching film, a lot of these young kids don't know how to watch film. Even if they watch their own film of themselves, they have no idea how to watch it. And they're always looking again for that final action. But really, that misstep, or you're guessing, or that, anticipation where you kind of bit off too much than you could chew, that leads you in a position where now you're doing an emergency movement and you never get that chance to actually get your feet set. So when we talk about it all the time is, when we do our session structure, just making sure that we're not just watching the final action or, playing that ball into the final action, but it's where would you have been, 2-3 seconds prior to this ball being played. So then now you can actually get that muscle memory of, okay, with your eyes and your legs, recovering back to that spot. And then from there, now, like Michelle said, you get to a position where now everything's accessible to you, your feet, your hands. Michelle, I've seen some of your saves as well, just using your chest every once in a while, just staying big. So every now and again, you got to, and I think that's, to your point, Mike, I think that's where when you watch the film, watching those 3-4 seconds prior, and when you see that, then you get to see the goalkeepers that are special because they've had the experience of, hey, I've taken this step and I've over-anticipated. This time I'm probably not going to do it. And you see younger goalkeeper step too much and they have to pay for it. So yeah, I would say that's a really, really important thing to take a note of.
Mike, I know what you're going to bring up.
What was I going to bring up?
The Brazil game.
I actually was going to bring up the Brazil game.
I know
because, okay. But I didn't want to say it in a negative way whatsoever.
It's not a negative way. I mean, but we talked about it yesterday, and her motion, she never got set. And I think that second goal is an easy save. If your head, your eyes turn, you get into position, you get set, it's an easy save. But because her body, her lower, everything's still moving into position, it's a goal.
Yeah. Well, look, you've won a World Cup. You've played at that level, so I can let you make that comment towards Barbara. I'm not going to make that comment.
No, I
think
I have nothing. I would say that about De Gea. I would say that. I
know.
Like if you want to get better, I'm going to tell you, and you guys know it too, and you saw it, and we talked about it. But I think that's a good example. If parents out there were watching the game yesterday of the US and Brazil, that second goal, like, she's still moving, she's not set, she her body's not where it should be, and because of that, yes, it's a good service, a good goal. But I think that at this level, that's something that we can save.
I think one thing that was really brought up by Tom Dutra from Seattle Sounders a couple weeks ago when he was on the show, Michelle, was he was talking about is into that deceleration, into the squareness of your body, because that's a discipline in regards to when we're talking about balance right here, is that deceleration allows you to get balanced and square up, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think I think these things, like, I agree with Saskia, like, that's a save I'm sure Barbara wish she would have made, but like, we've all been there, and it's
Absolutely.
such minute and it's all minute details, and it's little things that go into all of this. And I mean, thinking about the deceleration, like, it's this fine line. You want to get there as fast as you can, but you have to be controlled. And I think that's the hardest part, because it's almost counterintuitive, because you're going as fast as you can, but also in control. And I think even like, this past couple of years coming off injuries, I think it's been interesting for me to see like what I still do pretty naturally and what's been more tough for me to transition back into. And I think in the initial process coming back from my Achilles, that was one of the hardest things, because I just want to get there fast, and thinking about being in control and really controlling my movements and slowing those things down and then letting them happen more efficiently made such a difference then, and it really turned things around for me. But it's way easier said than done, I think, because the ball moves fast, the game moves fast, and it's about like, meeting the pace, but also being in control of everything you're doing.
No, absolutely. And trust me, like, thank God, like, all my stuff's on 8mm and like VHS, because nobody has it. So they can't come back and be like, well, look what you did. Because you don't have the technology to pull it up, because that's how old I am. Yeah. But it is easier said than done. But if I'm going to critique, I think that's the critique,
Yeah. And that's the standards we all hold to ourselves too. So.
Yeah. Omar, I want to speak to you in regards to this, because I think one of the situations right here, you always talk about the fast approach and the slow arrival. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of goalkeepers have issues with balance is because there is not that deceleration, that slow arrival. Now, how much of that do you think is physical, and how much of it do you think is mental?
Oh man, it's a little bit of both. I mean, if mentally you're, I have kids who are super, super aggressive, and I've played basketball with them as well. And then we play basketball, they go for rebounds. They don't know what a foul is. They just run through you. And
wait, hold on. We gotta stop.
Hey, you play basketball
with your students?
Oh no, but like, I'm Lebanese and I'm Muslim. So like, we have a Muslim community of people who go to the mosque and stuff. We play basketball. So I see them. Some of the kids that I train are Muslim with, so I played with them every once in a while. And those are the ones who like bulldoze you, or like don't have it. Like, they just run through you, and you can just tell they're very clumsy. And when you actually get them on the field, you start realizing, oh wow, like, this actually translates in a negative way, where there is no such thing as balance for them. There's no such thing as I call it calculated anticipation. We talk about even free kicks, for example, and we could probably show Michelle. I've watched some of your highlights, Michelle. So that top corner save to your right, essentially is like this calculated anticipation, where you stay on one side, but for a fact if that goes over the wall, your feet got to get moving. Yeah. And some people don't have that. They completely anticipate without ever having it, come down to a science, or controlling that urge to go all the time. So yeah, Mike, I would say yes. A lot of the times why people are unbalanced, it has to do a lot with what's between the ears, and a lot of times it actually translates to the rest of their life where they're very impatient. So if you feel like you're an impatient person, you probably are not very good at setting your feet prior to a shot, because you probably think, hey, I got one more foot in me or one more inch in me. And usually, and I wasn't asking Michelle, and I'm sure Saskia as well, I'll probably tap into your experiences, all that as well. But like for you, when you play against these better players, for example, you go from Georgia and then you come to to the system here in the NWSL, and you start playing against better players, that like margin of a difference between the skill levels, I'm sure it has a lot to do with, you say, what, I'd rather just stay one step back and be fully set than try and go one step forward than have Alex Morgan or, one of those press come at me and take a touch and I'm not set. Is that something
We're
you guys
both shaking our head.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'll never forget I was training with the Boston Breakers, and Cheney was, Lauren Cheney was just, she scored at will. And I'm just like, and I considered myself a decent shot stopper. And I'm just like, how? She's like, I can see you leaning. She was literally picking up little lean, or like if she's about to hit it, she opens her hips and I shift a little bit, she's then changing as she hits it. And until that point, no offense to anyone that I was playing with until that point, obviously she's an incredible player, but like nobody was picking that out of me. I could read it a little early, I could shift in those things. And then, I learned really early on trying to play in this professional league, how disciplined I had to be, how patient I had to be in my set, and I think that, that is such a, you could anticipate so much more in college, I think. Whereas, this, then going to Portland where you have Sink and Tobin and everybody when I was there, I couldn't get away with anything. And, it was frustrating at times in training, but it was also the best thing for me because I was seeing, the best shooters every single day. So, game day, I felt ready for whatever and in a good spot, but it was definitely a transition period.
I love what you just brought up right there, Michelle, real quickly, Saskia, is in regards to Tobin, because I want to bring this back to you, Saskia, is that I think the thing about Tobin is like, I think of the deception, the deception in her shot. She'll probably do a backflip rainbow, over you.
I love Tobin Heath because I don't have to play against her.
But I'm saying is like, Saskia, obviously at your level at UCLA, you're trying to prepare these women to try to play at the professional level. And is that something that you kind of talk about? Because I think, the difference in deception from the college level to the pro level is, and obviously you've played at the highest of levels, is so high. And sometimes it's a mental game to be able to be that patient and not bite, because they are trying to deceive you in their movement.
I think that the transition from coming in from high school and club into college, some people have it and some people don't. This is across the board. I'm not pointing anybody out. Okay. I think that when you have a me official, okay, and she's so deceptive, when you have a Sunshine, and Sunshine it's just so casual on the ball, will take that pause and look, and she'll pick out any part of the goal she wants to pick out. One of the greatest shooters I've ever seen in my life. And I joke, but I agree with you. My practice was against Mia Hamm and stuff like that. So I got punished. And I learned not to lean long time ago. To see goalkeepers that make that transition, that understand that you have to believe in your ability to be set, be square, and make the right movement and be quick enough and react, because you lean a little bit against these players and you're done. And if you can't coach that out of their game, then you're not going to go far. You're not going to go to the next level, because when we had Michelle Akers on, I always go back to this. She was looking for it. She was sensing it. She was seeing it, and she would punish you for it. And I think a lot of young goalkeepers were just like, oh, they're just hitting the ball. No, they're looking, they're feeling, they're seeing what you're doing. And in that split second, they're going to punish you for it. And you have to grow out of it. And I think a lot of that falls onto young coaches that are just repetitively training the same thing, where okay, you're doing this movement and we're going near post and boom, 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 boom. Well, that doesn't mean that they have to get set first, square, and then go near post. And if they're not, and if they're just leaning and leaning and leaning because they know the drill, then punish them. Go the opposite way. And you have to start instilling that in kids younger than when they get to college and when they get to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a college goalkeeper actually training with us right now. I think she's a good goalkeeper. She will be a good goalkeeper, but she gets caught leaning. She'll get caught. And I'm like, hey, look, like, do it right and get scored on right now. And I know that's so counterintuitive, but just do it right and react correctly. Cause then your reactions, your timing, everything will catch up. Like, don't cheat. Trust yourself, trust yourself. You'll figure it out. Your body will solve it. But if you keep, if you lean and you make a save 1 out of 4 times because you guessed right or read it right, like, you're not learning. You're not letting yourself get better. Like, you have no pressure here. Just get better. And it's really counterintuitive to her, and it's tough for her. And obviously, you're a goalkeeper. You never want to see the ball in the back of the net. But like, it's something I tell myself too. Fail correctly. Do it right. Do it right. So that's what translates. Like, that's what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. Yep. Sometimes I'll look and the team will be like, "Oh, great save." I'll be like, "You got hit by the ball."
Yeah.
You didn't make the
exactly.
Save. The ball hit you. Like, do it right. And I agree with you. I would rather see you hold and get your reaction better and quicker and faster if you're squared up and set and doing it right than 1 out of 5 guessing the right way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Omar.
And yeah, no, I just want to add on to both points. But Michelle's like, exactly what I tell my kids is exactly what we just said. Like, I'd rather you build a foundation of, like Saskia said, like, reaction time. And the foundational piece of that is, I'm going to stay big. I'm going to make you beat me, which I know all strikers are waiting. Like we talk about Michelle Laker, she's waiting for us to make a decision, and we're playing chess right then and there. So when we talk about that, I say to the kids, like, look, I'd rather I score and you build a foundation of doing the right thing. And then that reaction time and all the hand-eye coordination all actually catches up with the good decisions, versus, like Michelle said, you're making those mistakes, or you're making the saves, but you're getting extremely lucky. And now you have no foundation. You have nothing to really work off of. So if you do get scored on in a game and you're presented with that situation 5 minutes later, you have no idea how to fix it because you've never really sat down and said, okay, this time I was leaning, so next time I'm going to stay big. You don't have that I guess right. that data to really fall back on. So I think that's what we talk about, what Saskia, you're saying about coaches. We need to instill that in training sessions where it's like, look, of course we want you to make the save, but at the end of the day, training is to develop the proper habits and develop the proper foundations. And if you go to a game and I'm doing you a disservice by you going to the game and not having a foundation to fall back on. And I think the greatest goalkeepers talk about, Buffon, Casillas, Hope Solo, when they were in the games, they have all this experience and knowledge to fall back on. And that's why you see them bounce back from those errors or bounce back from situations where they made the wrong step. 5 minutes later, they're presented with the same situation. They make a big save because they actually have the ability to process that information because they have a good foundation and good footing to jump off of.
Yeah, I want to bring this up with Michelle right now, in regards to what you're saying, Omar, because I think one of the problems is you were talking about impatience, right? Impatience. And I think impatience leads to a lot of kids biting or moving too much or whatever. Michelle, one thing about you is that your stillness is very solid. And what I mean by that is that you're not pulsing up and down ridiculous. Like there's nothing wrong with a little bit of pulse or whatever, but I don't know if you've noticed it, but the trend is at the youth levels, there's a lot of young goalkeepers who think that pulsing is bouncing is the same as pulsing, and they're just jumping up and down and they're getting beat every single time because they're lifting their feet off the ground right before that final action.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough, I think that's like a continual work in process. Almost every goalkeeper coach I've had at the professional level has said something different. And I think that's where, especially as you mature, you kind of have to feel what works for you, find what works for you. Everybody, like I trained with Nadine Unger. She's has a very German style. She even like from, the men and the women from when they were 10, they learned to swing their arms back, kind of get that hop in and get her legs, and it worked perfectly for her. When I tried to do that, I got caught with the timing, and I trained Hope Solo, who has little pitter-patter feet. She's a little wider, she's a little more keeled over. I remember the first day I trained with her, I was keeled over trying to patter my feet, and the goalkeeper coach was like, "It doesn't work for you, like move on." It works for Hope, it doesn't work for you, and so I think for me, it's just been again, like it's always a work in process, but what's going to be the most efficient, what's going to help me move the best, and being, pretty calm in that is when I'm most successful.
Yeah. I think, go ahead.
Frozen, Mike?
Am I frozen?
Yeah, they keep
You're just sitting there grinning.
Oh, I thought that was Michelle that was, I thought that was
You're
Michelle
like
that was
this.
frozen.
No, it was you.
I thought that was Michelle that was frozen. Is it me or is it Michelle? Can you hear me
No,
now?
you're fine. You're kind of a little delayed. No, and I agree. And it is a weird thing because, we always go back to this with the podcast, that it comes to the individual goalkeeper and what's best for them. I know that the hopping, we talked about this. We talked about it with Franz Hook and everything like that. You're going to get caught in the air sometimes, and you're going to wait for your feet to land. And we're talking about like split second movement, people. We're not talking about like this giant hop in the air and you're caught in the air. We're talking about split second movement, but that split second that you're bouncing, and you might get caught on the up, and that will stop you from making a save. And, like for me, I like to get that I want people to be active. There's a difference. I'm not saying I need you to be stagnant, because that's even worse. Like if you're cemented on the ground as well, and you're not timing your set and you're not moving properly, you still need movement. But for me, it's a step into the movement and not a bounce into the movement. And we're talking about milliseconds, which we're talking about, but it makes a difference.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to add on. I just want to add to that. Like one thing I've noticed, and again, I watched myself on film as of like last year, so it's not up to date. But just when I got back in goal and did some training, I realized that as I was moving from like, let's say 1 yard to 5 yard movement, when I got to my set position, I felt like I was so loaded up on the quads that I felt that prep set I needed to have a little mini prep set just to offload some of that weight, and then kind of revert it all around my body, so that I'm not light, but that I'm actually like every part of my body is even now, versus being so front loaded. And I think all the time we talk about, like, if you look at anything we do from a movement to the final action, it's like a letter T. When you get to that like breaking point where you either go right or left or down the middle, you got to slow down, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to move laterally. So I think a lot of times that last little set, when you get to that position, everybody's different. And I think I've watched Australian Open this past week, and you see Osaka, you see all these players, and when they get ready for the serve, their prep set, or like Chris Sharp called it, like the crow hop, everyone has something different. But at the end of the day, their thing is to actually be able to shift their feet laterally and then use that technique to actually get that ball back across. Same thing with us goalkeepers. So I think cross-sport training is also really important, because it also will highlight a lot of that stuff and expose you to, finding the most optimal way for you and your athletic build.
I think that's a great example. Beyond is a tennis player off a serve, because if a tennis player off a serve is grounded and stagnant, they're never getting to the ball. So there is movement that's needed. There is a rhythm that's needed. I think sometimes it's over exaggerated, and sometimes I'm dealing with people that set way too early and are like in cement. That's the best way I can explain it. So that, there has to be some training in this and some timing. It's a rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, something I've found over the years is that when I get too wide, I can't move out of it. You see the men goalkeepers, a lot of them set really wide, like, and even some of the women do. But for me, when I'm approaching, kind of that half second before my set, I think I'm best when I'm actually a little narrow, because that last movement or last, hop, whatever you want to call it, is a little wider, and then I move out of it. So then I kind of get, maybe a little wider than shoulder width. But, you see the men, they're so wide, and then they kind of take that step in to move. And it's something that I think, like, I've had to play with a lot, because I try to watch and learn and kind of like take little pieces. But I think it is such a personal body type thing, especially on the women's side. Like, I think we're all just like built so differently. Training with Casey Murphy, for example, I'm 5'8", she's 6'1". It's just not going to be the same. How we move out of it, how we get low, how we get high. So Absolutely. I think it is like such a personal thing.
No, Michelle, and I was the same way. My pre-stretch was narrower, and then that little rhythm into right before I move laterally or dive was maybe a little bit of a wider set, but I stepped into it narrowly.
Yeah.
I'm 5'8".
I was going to say,
I'm 5'8" and I'm 5'9", but the national team has me down as 5'10". I don't know how that happened. But just,
I was gonna say, Michelle, you can't break the fourth wall, and because you're not listed, you're listed at 5'9". You're not listed at 5'8". So you gotta.
dude,
that's with cleats and my bun.
I was 5'10" and a half or something. I'm like, dude, I'm like 5'8 3/4. Like, what is anybody doing? So I can say I'm 5'9".
Cleats, insoles, bun, easily 5'9.5". So
maybe it was like my kid and play fro back then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I learned real quick when I went on my first with my first college recruiting tape, and I put on the tape 5'11" on the tape, and then I didn't even think about the fact. Yeah, I have the presence of someone who's 5'11", which no one still wants that anyway, but in the men's side. But I basically showed up for my first visit or whatever, and it just dawned on me as like the coach got up from his chair and he was like 6'3". I'm like, oh, he's gonna tell I'm not 5'11". Like he's gonna be like, I was like, I should not have done that. Like that, I just shot myself in the foot right there. So kids, you can be generous. Don't be that generous with yourself. What about you, Omar?
No, I mean, I tell you, I grew to like 5'11" when I was probably like 12 years old. So I thought I was gonna play basketball. I was like the king on the courts at the middle school. And then after everyone started catching up, and it was a very, very rude awakening. I was like, the basketball comments started getting less and less. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna stay with goalkeeping. Probably gonna stay. I'll probably be a striker. I just started going down the list of like where height has not an issue. Well, I'll be a coach. I think coach would be good.
Listen, at 5'9", we'll say it was 5'9", I was like one of the tallest people on the women's national team. Now
That's crazy. Yeah.
I'd be short.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how big these girls
It is crazy.
they are. I mean, like I had like, the fairs that were like 5'2". I had Tiffany Roberts. I love you, Tiff. I love you, Lori, everybody, but that were like 5'4". That was fine. It was like this. I was like 5'9". Michelle was like a little taller than me. Daniel Fotopoulos. I was huge. And now I'm like, I stand in the huddle with UCLA, and I'm like the shortest person there, other than the other coaches.
That is crazy. Yeah, Omar, I had the same experience with basketball. I was this height when I was maybe in 4th grade, so I was like a power forward, like for sure, future in basketball, and then had to be a point guard a couple of years later.
You two were like Billy Madison, like we're just like on the court with like the 3rd grader just swatting balls down and all that.
Yeah.
But Mike, I think since we're on the basketball topic, I kind of the way I communicate it. I mean, I have kids who play different sports, so sometimes if they don't understand what I'm trying to say, I use different sports to make it more apparent to them. And for example, when we talk about like people always say, oh, Steph Curry, why is he shooting 3-pointers and warm up just standing still? And, in the game, he's going to come off screens. I'm like, yeah, but you have to develop the technique first. So when we go to goalkeeping stuff, sometimes you have to train that final action. So you know exactly what your body looks like in terms of from a still position, how athletic you can be. So then now we peel the curtain back a little more and we say, okay, look, when you see him in game, Steph Curry has the technique, but he's coming around screens, catching the layoff or the pass, slows his body down in time. So now the technique is effective. So for us goalkeepers, very, very similar is now we add some movement into it, but you know what your body should feel like and look like once that final action or once that shot's going to be hit, because we've trained that final action. Now we're just adding a little bit more speed to it, a little bit more weight to it on your body. So I think it's super important to sometimes train that final action in isolation, but also to show the goalkeeper, look, this is what I'm trying to get out from either film of themselves or professional goalkeepers. So they don't, like Sasco always says, kids are so impressionable and they say, oh, that's the final action. That's how I'm always going to be, versus like, look, you're going to add this next piece to it. But I think that's the skill level of a coach, is understanding like, I'm not going to force feed it or, spoon feed it to you, but understanding that there are layers to what I'm teaching you. And this is what it looks like one layer back. This is what it looks like one step forward.
I think also with kids being literal and the movement, and that's what we're talking about, is I think when kids don't know what to do, they just run. Like they just go. Like, I'm just gonna go. Yeah. Like whether it's a through ball, whether it's something, I'm gonna go. So it's, leaving late, arriving early, understanding how to slow down your body. And it's up to us as coaches to break that down and teach that out of them, because when they're confused, when it's chaotic for them, those are the wrong decisions. Oh, the ball's coming across goal. It's coming from, far post over. It's coming across goal. I'm just going to get there. instead of understanding, the breakdown, like you said, Omar, like 4 seconds earlier, where are the other players? Where's the ball going to land? What's going to happen? Where do I have to slow myself down? Like we always say, it's better to be set and out of position than it is to be moving. But kids, I think nowadays just try to get there. Do a K-save from 10 yards away. Awesome. That's my favorite.
Speaking of film, as Omar was bringing it up right here, I want to start bringing up some Michelle clips right here, because I think one of the really important things that we need to recognize too for younger goalkeepers out there is that the scenario also dictates how disciplined you're going to be with your movement, how far you're going to come out. But you staying balanced. So I kind of want to play this clip right now. Omar, let's see how I can do this. Okay. 61st minute, regardless of the score. Let's not look at the score in any way whatsoever right there. I believe what happens right here is it's a ball. I think it's a Sinclair on a slip ball to Smith. Michelle comes off her post, but she holds. And then there's that chest you're talking about there, right there, Omar. At the save right there. Let's play that through.
Oh
my God, that poor girl.
I know.
She got hit hard.
Who tried to do a chest there?
So here's a slip ball. Michelle comes off post, but she doesn't bite and extend and open up that gap on that third goal situation. She stays, she holds, and then because she's got the discipline of her balance on that final action, she keeps her shape and steers it to a great place with a very difficult part of her body. So that was phenomenal.
Wait, can we watch this?
Yeah, you want to watch it in real time? Okay. Boom. God, what a save. That was brilliant. Hope you were doing okay there, Michelle.
That sucks.
So this is exactly what I was talking about. So I think that a lot of younger goalkeepers and inexperienced goalkeepers and stuff would have kept coming. Would have not been able to slow their body, not realize, okay, in that moment you're coming, but then you realize she's cocked and loaded and ready to shoot. So you have to set. You can't keep. Yeah. So even if you think, oh, I could have come further, oh, this or that. No, you have to set, which is what you did and made yourself big. And I think a lot of young goalkeepers out there will just keep coming because that was the first decision they made. And you can't just make a decision and just go with it. You have to see the situation, what the ball's doing, when it's in their bubble, if they're cocked and loaded, and you have to slow yourself down, stop, make yourself big. It's exactly what you did. And your teammate did it too. So, but that's exactly my point.
Thoughts, Omar?
I mean, should we let the person who made the save talk? I don't know. I feel like if I add anything, I'm just gonna butcher it. So I'm gonna let you go for it. Like you.
Well, I thought you were gonna do a better play-by-play before Michelle talked. That's why.
No, Sasha.
I was giving
knocked out of the park there. That was good. No, I said knocked out of the park. I mean, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have much to add.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's a save I make because there's goals I've given up doing it another way. Like I think that's the process of learning. Like. It's always such a balance. I'm an aggressive goalkeeper naturally. I am that kid running across the goal. I want to come flying for things, but then you get caught, and then it's how do you harness that aggression into controlled aggression? How do you make the right decisions? And I think maybe rewind 5 years, maybe I keep coming, but the thing I've prided myself on is that I'm going to get better for the things that I do wrong. I'm hopefully not going to make the same mistake twice. And if it happens twice, maybe, not the third time, I'm going to learn my lesson. Like you said, reprocess. And I think that's goalkeeping. You figure out your ranges, you figure out, okay, why didn't I make that save? So yeah. So probably, like I said, 5 years ago, maybe I keep coming. I try to continue moving through. She hits it early. I'm still moving. It goes in the net, and then
Absolutely.
That's, and then that's the result. Go back to the drawing board. Okay. I need to set early. I need to implement that in training, make those decisions, be controlled in my set. I think that is, something that I know that I've like consciously, deliberately worked on to try to be better at.
What I like about that movement to that ball though, was how aggressive you came off the line and then being able to stop yourself. So I think that what a lot of players out there don't realize is that aggressiveness, that power coming off your line, it scares the Jesus, out of the forward as well. I can't have to keep remembering I'm not allowed to curse. So it scares they're like, oh my God. But then to be able to slow yourself down that quick with that much power coming off your line is awesome. As opposed to some people will come creeping off their line.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really scare the bejesus as out of the forward, but here you're like, bam, stop, holding them up. And I like that movement. That was awesome.
Thanks.
The one thing, and I think Saskia said it earlier, it's like, sometimes people will not ask for praise, but if you make the save and as coaches and as players we played forever, we dude, that ball hit you. But then again, that's also a very lazy way to think about it. Cause if you look at this save, you realize, no. She put herself in the position to make the save. And I think I bring up, for example, David De Gea. And someone like him, for so many years, he was so successful doing that K save. No one really knew what it was. He was just making this amazing saves with his feet. And then once the tape came out on De Gea, a lot of people started realizing if I shoot a little bit earlier, or if I fake shoot and he goes down, now I can actually probably, affect this a lot more and put it in my favor as a striker. So I think a lot of people came out against De Gea when he had, Man U was going through their tough time. But De Gea, people kept saying, oh, his technical foundation, we've been saying it for years, is so flawed. And he's going to, fall off most goalkeepers who kind of get lucky, for example. But then you look at it again. Now it's okay, he actually was able to look at those technical flaws. And then the scouting report came out. Now he's gotten a lot better because he's realizing I can't do that every single time anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So Michelle just said, as a younger goalkeeper, you may have come out, maybe came on your knees, turned your head, made ourselves smaller, turned your shoulder, we've all done before.
No, turning my head, that's my favorite.
Yeah, so I'm saying, I trained a kid who cuts himself in half every single time by turning his right shoulder in. And I'm like, dude, you realize that's the sixth time I've scored on you. And if I'm seeing you over and over and over, if I'm playing against you a lot, I know that I could just dink it over you. So I think that's where, again, it's important for you to self-reflect on some of the decisions you made, so that when you step out again and make those, put yourself in similar situations, you can have a different effect on the play.
Yeah, it's really good, Omar, what you just brought up right there, because I think one of the things that we really need to focus on is that memory bank type situation as a younger goalkeeper, and remember these moments so that we get them over. That's why Rob Vartugian from NYCFC, he talked about the fact that it's so difficult, as much as we try to with session design simulate the game at training, it's almost impossible to get everything like the game. We can make it as game-like as possible, but Michelle, like you're obviously talking about, it's you can't simulate that, the fans in the crowd, the pressure of that situation, the real live gameplay, the fact that these, this isn't your teammate coming at you in a scrimmage type situation. These are, it's a competitive environment. And, one situation I think it shows a lot of discipline from you, Michelle, that I want to bring up right now is this play right here from a while back. And this was Seattle against Sky Blue. And it was a ball that was played into McCaskill right in front at the outside of the box. And you have the discipline to stay here. And then I think you put a little mustard on that, but you got to get off the ground every once in a while. A lot of goalkeepers, again, would run out quite crazy. And you're talking about you being an aggressive goalkeeper. I think this showed phenomenal patience on your part, because a lot of kids in this situation,
step back.
She does to create a little depth.
I think that's phenomenal, because I think that without that step back, maybe you're in no man's land. Maybe you're a step into no man's land and that becomes a tip or it goes over. But you realize, all right, she's at the left corner of the box. Technically, I have a defender there. And so if she decides to take another touch and come, I have a defender there. So let me take a step back, reset, and cover. So, and again, you guys, and phenomenal again, and this is 101 for great decision making. But I think that a lot of kids would have stayed up. They would have stayed at the top of the sticks. They wouldn't have moved. They wouldn't have readjusted themselves. And now that ball's over the top and in the goal. Well done.
Michelle. Yeah. Michelle,
thank you. Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like you said, it's just an experiencing. And I think, like you said, it's hard to recreate game situations, but I mean, something for me over the years that I've always done, since, the very beginning of my pro career for sure, is anytime I've gotten scored on, I've gone back, figured out what I did wrong, and then I've mentally made that save. I've fixed it in my mind. So I've made that save before. And because I do think that goals freaking suck, but they teach you, they're, nothing teaches you like a goal, like something that costs you that much. And I think that to go back and learn from them, and then, you can't create game situations, but also playing, you never take anything lightly, as a goalkeeper in training, like you feel like you're in a game. That's it, it's small sided, it's 11v11, whatever. Like you're doing the same thing. You're, after an 11v11 scrimmage the other day, I'm still breaking down film with my goalkeeper like it's a real game, and we're figuring things out, and I'm learning and growing. And, even later in my career, that's something that's really important to me. And I think that, it all pays off in those moments when you're just disciplined. And I think, like we started this conversation with this, it's a matter of trusting yourself. Like if you're flying at somebody and you're out of control, you're just hoping, I think when you can, and there's times to do it, but I think it's when you can stop and set, that's trusting yourself. That's feeling good in your set. That's feeling good. Like you're going to be in this position. You're going to trust yourself when your feet are in the ground, and whatever's going to happen, you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, I want to apologize. I want to apologize, Michelle. I recognize the movement of that ball, that the ball started moving away. So you did have to get that momentum and get off the ground right there. So I apologize for that snide remark.
Everybody's
a snide remark.
Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. I promise I wasn't. I was just trying to make the save.
You're just a knucklehead. I swear to God, Mike.
But I think again, in terms of that situation, Michelle, I think, a lot of times, obviously, decision making or like those movements where sometimes I would even beg to differ that like the situations where you have more time to think about stuff, those are situations that you have to be at your best. A lot of people can make those reaction saves because it's just really you're getting to your spot and then you're using your athleticism to make the save. Versus now you use your athleticism, you use your discipline, you use your goalkeeper IQ, you use your experience. There's so many different layers that are factored into that. So I would say in this situation, for me, what I like to look at is distance management. And it's something that I've been really, really working on with my goalkeepers in terms of 1v1s. I know a lot of kids, and again, you can't train the full picture because I only have me and two other goalkeepers that we train with, but we can try to get that final action where they start a little bit higher on the PK and they transition to the angle. And then from there, the ball is live. So a lot of times when that ball slipped through, the goalkeepers, in my opinion, don't know at what distance they need to be to either manipulate it, where like De Gea, for example, he's a great saver with his feet. So for him,
De Gea day.
No, I know. I'm using him as an example because, you can even say Ter Stegen, but for example, De Gea, he can use his feet better than a lot of people, and because that's how he's trained when he was growing up. He has long legs. So for him in distance management in that situation, Michelle, I would say he maybe would have stepped a little bit more just so that his feet could be just outside the post. And you look at it and you go, what is he doing? Michelle made that save from 4 or 5 yards back. Why doesn't he do that too? Well, it's like he knows what his strengths are, and he's creating a picture for himself that allows him to use his strengths. He's manipulating it to use his strengths. And I think in that situation for you, it was like, okay, if I keep coming forward, the striker really has no more work to do because my defenders are going to converge on her. But if I stay a little bit further back, now she's got to beat my defenders and think about them and beat me at the same time. And it gives me time to see the ball and, react the way I need to react. So I think young kids and coaches as well, just like understanding the distances and where to position yourself. And I think that will also help you figure out where that last final set position would be. And I think once you figure that part out, that's where discipline and the full picture really comes together.
I think that we've talked about that and a lot, that I think coaches out there that are listening, you have to implement that you have to implement the movement. You can't, you're right. You can just repetitively do drills and then it's save. But if you try to implement, and even Omar, like I know you do, so I've seen your sessions, but if you try to implement what it is to start backing up into the goal, then having to decide when to come forward, when things are progressing slowly in front of you, that's when that's when the decision-making comes in. And if implementing that into your training, you can do that. You can do that with, even if it's one-on-one, and start them high. Okay, now the ball's coming low. Get yourself back, understand where you are in your peripheral with your lines, everything like that, when to come forward. Those are things that have to be, you have to train, because that's the reality. That's the game. I would hope that the game isn't like a shooting gallery.
Yeah.
The game is kind of like lull and then into something you have to make a decision, and your movement and how you're like retreating into the goal, then coming forward and then retreating. Those are things that have to be trained.
Oh my
And
gosh.
oh, sorry.
No,
I was
go,
just gonna say, I would follow
Michelle,
up
you
on
go,
that.
you go.
I would follow up on that like, I mean, the saves you're showing from me, but I mean, probably any goalkeeper's highlights or whatever, like those saves are not consciously made in the game. You know, those saves are consciously made in training. And then in the game, it just happens. You know, I'm not thinking, oh, she's okay, maybe 1 yard outside the 18, so I can take 2 steps back, you know, like that. But all of that is done in training. It's, you know, from beginning of the process to end, it's, you know, thinking, analyzing, overthinking. You know, sometimes there's time to, you know, really mess with that in your head. And then there's sometimes it's just, okay, now the field players are in and you're trusting yourself and your reactions and your training. And I think like you look at game time decisions and you're like, oh, what are you thinking there? But I think it's more what training has gotten you there. Like training's going to get you there. Your decisions every day in training are what going to produce what you do in the game.
No, absolutely. You want it to become second nature.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think what you're saying is so important, or both of you guys, about the way you're training goalkeepers to make those decisions and think about it.
Speaking of that, though, in regards to the way we're training goalkeepers, I think, you know, you guys both hit the nail on the head on one thing that's really important right there. You know, and I want to shout out like Jill Lloyden, for instance, at TKI. Like she does a really good job of like starting with the foundational body shape work, but then layering in the problem solving element. Because if you don't layer in that problem solving element, Michelle, you could have the best balance in the world, but come those scenarios in the game, you're not going to know how to access it because it is going to be a conscious decision. And the only way to become subconscious is over and over again, repetition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, training, I train with Jill at TK. I've probably been doing that for 3 years in my off season. And I think, I mean, it's the best goalkeeper environment I've been in, where you don't, I mean, and we do have, you know, our token field players come in, but without, you know, real access to a team and field players, you know, I think it's absolutely the best environment I've been in, because it's decision making. It's replaying the game as much as possible. It's so quick. You have to do things so fast. It's such a, and you know, so much of what we're talking about, going back to the topic, is technique isn't just like how you set, but technique is also the efficiency of your movement into your set or into what you're doing. You know, that is also technique. So, you know, we have this really good combination, I think, or her and Maria present this really good combination of focusing on the technique and how important that is, but also having to make decisions while maintaining that technique. And I think that environment is so important and so helpful, especially to professional goalkeepers in an off season.
No, well said.
You know, and I think one of the mistakes that a lot of younger goalkeeper coaches make, Omar, and I'm not throwing you under the bus saying younger goalkeeper coaches, I'm just talking about younger goalkeeper coaches, is that they also understand all this from a conceptual standpoint, but their application is such that they train goalkeepers to not be able to do it at game speed. You know, they train them and they've got great balance and they can make this movement here and there or whatever, but they can't do it at game speed. You know, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
No, I mean, it just depends on your training environment. I mean, if you have, you know, 10 kids in, you know, 2 lines of 5, it's going to be very, very difficult for those kids to come in and, you know, get that game speed. Because if, you know how it works, if you step into the goal and then the goalkeepers that are out that are shooting on you, they don't put it on frame, the next person goes. So I think it just depends on your training environment. I think TKI, for example, does a great job of keeping the group small, but even if they're small, they have other bodies that they utilize to make it seem like game realistic, and those movements are at game speed. So I think, you know, again, don't bite off more than you can chew. Have the young goalkeepers work on that final action and maybe even do like 1 or 2 yards into a set. And then from there, applying the technique of how to make a save. But then after that, once they've kind of shown that they've, you know, prospered in that, back it up a little bit more and now show them in games where, hey, your team is building out of the back. You lost it. Now you're recovering from the top or the corner of your 6, recover back to the goal. And now we're playing it at full speed. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just baby steps. But I think as coaches, we need to just, again, watch as much footage as you can on the goalkeeper and see what situations they present themselves or are presented to them in games. But also, too, watch the actual games. And you can, I mean, I do this all the time. I have a YouTube list of videos that I watch highlights. I save it and then I put it back and I go, okay, today I'm working on cutbacks. Oh, this is a cutback from the Napoli game. Okay, this is what the goalkeeper did. This is where the ball came from. This is how it started. Boom, there's my session plan. So just stuff like that where I think staying up to date on what's happening in the game and trends and how the balls are being slipped in and all that is very, very important.
First of all, I'm wondering if are we getting a payment from TKI right now? I think we just did that like a 20-minute commercial for them, which is totally cool with me. I love
It's the
Jill.
least I could do. It's the least I could do for what they've done for me.
No,
so
I
consider
love
it
Jill.
my-
I think she's on point.
Yeah.
So I just had to throw that out there. I think that a good thing for you coaches out there and anybody else, you have to see if what you're teaching is translating into the game. And, I think, is the decision making you're implementing, is the sessions that you're implementing, watch your keeper in the game. Are they getting it? Are they making those decisions? And if they're not, you have to go back and you have to restructure your training environment. You have to. You can't be like, oh, well, we worked on that last week. I don't know why she's not getting it. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. If it's not translating, then something's wrong in your coaching. And look, I have that problem. I have I've had some keepers in my life that it doesn't translate. And I have had to say, what is it with this keeper that what I'm doing isn't translating? And having to have that conversation, restructure it and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, if it's not working in the game, that's the end all be all, right? So, you've got to pay attention to that.
Sure.
TK, Jill, we need a backdrop right now.
We're gonna have to do a TKI backdrop in the back in the background.
There we go. He's doing it right now too.
Is Omar doing it right now?
I think he is.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, Jersey's the best place to become a great goalkeeper. So.
Michelle, you brought up something earlier in regards to with Nadine and the arm swing, and actually, honestly, that's a great topic to have Nadine on the podcast to talk about, the arm swing, because I think a lot of kids nowadays, they see the arm swing in the professional level, and I just had a kid last week, and he's arm swinging all over the place, and I was like, why? He's like, because he's watching the pros. And they're arm swinging, and he's watching Bundesliga, and he's like, and they're doing it. It's like, well, I think this is how you do it, but they're not understanding the balance aspect of the timing, because if your timing is off, your balance is off, and everything like that. So it's something that needs to be approached. I want to talk a little bit about in regards to your handshake, because a lot of people would say, and not myself personally or whatever, is that, you want a relaxed shape or whatever. You have a more of a forward hand shape, hand position or whatever. And it helps for you. It works because it keeps your balance. I personally like that. I do that myself too. But I've had some people go like, oh, well, that looks a little stiff or whatever. Can you kind of break down why that works for you and how that's been effective?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, so one of my biggest or worst habits is getting my shoulders back or driving through my hips too soon. And so for me, having that real forward hand shape actually keeps me forward for longer, keeps me in that, direct shape to the ball. I think when my hands get back, and when I did even play with the arm swing, I kind of popped through my hips a little bit, and I've lost the ability to do that later. So once your hips are popped through, you can't move. So for me, staying in that forward shape, keeping my shoulders a little rounded, my hands being forward really helps me do that. As soon as they get back, my shoulders get back, and then that kind of throws my balance off. So for me, that's, really an intentional thing. They may look stiff. They don't really feel stiff, if that makes sense. But it's more about the balance and making sure that I'm really having that forward position and really thinking about driving my head, shoulders, and hands directly to the ball instead of being behind it.
And Omar, I want to bring this up because, we're talking about to younger goalkeeper coaches, right there, we just showcased right there something that's very effective for Michelle, and she gives the why, which is so important, is that we explain the why. And if a goalkeeper is doing something and it's working for them and it's effective for them, don't try to change it if it's being effective, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great point. A lot of times you see professional goalkeepers who, for example, I've seen Keylor Navas. He dives sometimes off the wrong foot, and he's like, coming across a lot of times. He's diving to his right. He steps off his left foot, but he's still making the save. Yeah. Am I going to tell Keylor Navas, hey, that's wrong, you can't do that? No, but it's effective. So I think, again, with grain of rice, there are certain grain of salt, right? Am I saying
grain of salt?
Sorry,
I like rice, but salt's fine.
But there are. I made some quinoa today, but there are people who are just more successful doing it their way. But obviously, you want to make sure that there is a method to the madness. You don't want them to just be going out there and making these crazy saves. At the end of the day, they're going to be athletic and they're going to do great things with their reaction saves and their unorthodox techniques. But if we can try and refine those unorthodox techniques and say, look, this is the proper time to use it, I think that's the workaround and the way around to actually communicate that with the goalkeepers.
I think that also, I had a question. I got an email, I think, from us, but about like flighted balls, high balls, what foot to go off of. Remember, old school, throwing it back, old school, like, coaches out there, they teach them to go off one leg and the other knee comes up and all that craziness and stuff like that. And like, I think it's a good example of, that's a rhythm again. And some keepers go off a certain foot. Some keepers go off 2 feet. Some keepers do this a certain way. And I think that, if it's efficient and works and they're getting into position properly and they're tracking the ball properly, then no, I'm not changing that for them. And you have to take each goalkeeper individually. I think there are basics. I think there are basic not rules, but basic training and explanations. And if you can implement that and they can understand it and techniques, and they can work that into what their strengths are, then it's a win-win.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, I think there's such a balance because as a goalkeeper, and especially, I mean, for as long as I play, I want to be getting better. I don't feel like, oh, I've played this long now, I know, like I'm not, if I'm done getting better, then I don't want to be playing anymore. And so for me, I think if a goalkeeper coach comes in or somebody's watching film or they have an idea and it's going to gain me, half a second closer to the ball or something, and it's just something, then I'm going to try and play with it. If it's something I'm really, really set on, or I know, like, I feel great in something, maybe not. And, I'm definitely not going into game day trying it, but, if I'm in my off season and Jill's saying, hey, like, let's see if we can get you just a little wider, a little more narrow or something, right, like that's something I'm going to play with and feel, and I think that's also where goalkeepers need to take some ownership. And, you can try things, especially the younger goalkeepers. Like, to me, a 12-year-old should never be like, nah, I'm good. Like, I mean,
no, I got it.
I've had some of those. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Right,
so I think
you got to come coach out here in California. You'll see.
Yes. So yeah, I think always exploring. And I mean, there's reasons people are doing things the way they're doing. And sometimes it's because that's just how they've done it their whole lives. And sometimes it's just because it's, giving them that edge. And, for me, I really like to try to watch goalkeepers, especially in the women's game, who are built similar to me, who move similar to me, who have the same strengths as me, and look at what they're doing and see, okay, am I doing that the same way? Am I doing that better? Am I doing that worse? What's a little bit of a gap there? What can I close up? So I don't know. I think I see both sides of that stuff.
And one thing.
Sorry, go.
No, just real quick. I think one thing too is that if you and I, like I say, Saskia, you and I are watching footage, you and I may not see the same things, or you might see something about, Michelle's game that you go, oh, you know what? That's very similar to what I would do. Let me see how she does it. Let me see if maybe I can do it better because she does it better than me. And for example, like Sandra Panos, who plays for
I wouldn't
Barcelona.
have gotten hit in the chest.
Oh, probably would have taken one off the face. But like, I posted a highlight of Sandra Panos, who plays for Barcelona, and then there was a 1v1 situation, and there was probably like a 20-yard gap between her and the striker, and that ball was bouncing over the top. The back line set a nice little high line, bounce over the top. I saw her come out just a little bit to like throw the striker off, kind of like jabs her foot twice and then recovers back to her goal. And some people were like, oh, that looks like complete indecisiveness. She got so lucky that she didn't get beat.
No, she messed with her.
Yeah.
So there's the punchline. Give me a second.
Give me a moment. I didn't know there was a punchline. Sorry.
Not a punchline, but no, that's what it is, though. I think that's what I'm saying, is that you and I can watch the exact same thing, but perceive it completely different because of the things that, for me at least, I feel like I'm an IQ person. So when I watch the goalkeeping stuff, I look for all the smart things that people do so that I can go, okay, damn, that actually threw the striker off a lot more. I remember my sister, I was playing as a forward against her. She used to like jab at me and I'd freak out. I'd be like, what are you doing? She's like, yeah, but that made you move. It made you think. And now you're not even thinking about finishing. Now you're thinking about my movement. And if you translate that to goalkeeping, it's the exact same thing.
Wait a minute. Your sister's a goalkeeper?
My sister was a defender. She's an All-American defender, man. I wish she would have played more.
Why didn't I know this?
Yeah.
When I was playing in Norway, a goalkeeper, I don't know, it was a comedy of errors, but one got hurt, then another one got a red card, and then ends up a field player in goal. And a girl on my team's in on a breakaway, and the field player goalkeeper, I mean, she's the forward on my team's in on goal for, I mean, a solid 3 seconds and the keeper has not moved. You know, she's glued to her line. And you can see our forwards start to hesitate. Like, she has no idea what to do because the goalkeeper is not moving.
What
like,
the hell are you doing?
It seems entirely too easy. And she just barely scores. And I was like, what were you doing? She's like, I don't know, like, that was wild. Like, I almost missed because I was like, I can go anywhere. I can do anything. When is she going to come? What is she doing? I was like, that might be an interesting tactic to try.
For
just
sure.
like,
kind of reminds me of Canada against the United States the other day. Just saying.
Oh, that was an unlucky. I mean,
what are you talking about? You have a breakaway and then you pass it and then you just kick it right. That was like, I was like, oh, Canada. I was like, what are you doing?
No, Canada should have scored like 3 goals. I don't know. I mean,
no, but I love that. Do I think, like, and we'll put it this way, in my repertoire, do I think I'm going to be like head faking people? No, it's not it wasn't my game. But, you know, if it worked.
By the way, so you've never had that? You never had that when that ball gets like, it's a free kick and the ball gets swung to the far post and it's high enough where like, no one else is going to get this, and you fake that you're going to go up for it and it goes out of bounds? You've never done that before? Anybody? Like
I kind of go and I'm like, oh, it's going out of bounds?
No, like you put your arms up so the attacker goes, oh, easy ball for the keeper. You just let it go. I mean, if you're up 1-0, like, I'm wasting time. Sometimes I used to do that. The ball would get curled in. Like, it's for sure going out of bounds. Just go up, fake it, and it goes out of bounds.
No, like I don't know if I did that because I was like, the ball's in my hands, but that's just me.
Yeah, but Saskia would just go for everything.
No, because I sucked at goal kicks. So I was just like, shit, I don't want to have to take a fucking goal. I was like, no. I'm like, I didn't kick a 70-yard goal kick. So I was just like, if it's in my hands, now I can have
I'm learning so much more about Saskia, honestly. I think I held you in like this like unpenetrable force of like one of the best goalkeepers ever. The more you talk about your game, I'm just like,
I had surgery on my knee and like, look, okay, I could kick an 80-yard drop kick. I could do all that. My goal kicks suffered a little bit. I mean, you're talking about 50 yards, 60 yards, but you know, I played for the national team. You know, I'm not shooting on the other goal.
But Saskia, we'll say you were ahead of your time, because if you were playing today with the goal kick rule now, you'd be amazing.
I hate that rule.
You don't like that rule?
No, I think it's stupid.
Michelle, do you like the goal kick rule?
I think everybody gets
like
it. But you do, but I think for me, it probably would have been great at the time because they could pass it back and then I could kick it really far. But I don't think people have really figured out like how to deal with it. And I think that what I've watched in our UCLA, what I've watched is a lot of defenses getting themselves into trouble, period. And I think that for me with that, I know we've gone off topic right now because, you know, if it's Lauren in goal and we're doing that and Lauren, she can ping a ball 70 yards, you know, so that's awesome. So if she gets into trouble, if you high press or something like that, awesome. If you don't have a goalkeeper that's that good with their feet and you do a short and everybody presses and now you're passing it back, it's chaos.
But you know what? I'm going to pull it back to the topic right here, very simply, because the thing is that no, when we're talking about distribution, when we're talking about playing with our feet and everything like that, Michelle, you know, one of the things that is important is balance, because the thing is, if you create the space to work and you're balanced, you're going to be able to, the sky's the limit with what you can do with the ball. One of the biggest issues at the youth level, in my opinion, is that the balance is off. So therefore the prep touch is bad. And so that there's not, the space isn't created for the goalkeeper to be able to play a good ball. And now we have coaches that are trying to deal with the tactical issue of it and telling the goalkeeper, you should have looked here. You should have looked here. Well, it all came down to their body shape and the prep touch.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, balance is everything. I mean, if you're not in control of your body with what you're doing, you're not going to succeed, you know, most of the time. I think that's, you know, rushing or, you know, whether it's kicking or trying to get into your set. Like, I think if you're not in control of your final movements, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that died in the water right there. I guess that was explained. We're like, yeah, it's all pretty obvious.
Omar, I'm so upset right now that I've deflated my balloon a little bit.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I think we're starting to decelerate into that final action right now. I think that's what's going on.
I can be honest about my deficiencies.
No, it's okay. But I mean, I had deficiencies too as a player, but there's not much film on it. So people who know me on social media know me as the coach. So I just let it be. I'm like, okay.
No, I just made up for it by saying, I had a bad goal kick. It went 60 yards. Like, they don't know if that's true or not.
The damage has already been done, dude. I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. So Michelle, at you guys don't know this either, but at convention this year, which was done virtually, somebody messaged in the thing. And it was one of the old coaches at Oregon State, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know." He's like, "I found an old recruiting video of you," and I'm like, "Oh dear God, please don't."
Of you? I was like,
"Of me, please don't."
Me.
That's
me.
Crazy.
I don't want. He's like, "I still have it if you want to see it." I'm like, "I really don't. In fact, please don't ever let that see the light of day, because I think the podcast might disappear. I don't know what's going to happen if anyone sees."
I get that. I mean, I saw a college highlight video and I was like, oh dear God, those are the highlights. Like, that's, yeah. the best. Yeah.
I'm like, again, thank God for my archives. Nobody will ever touch them. And one day I know I will get on this podcast and I will see some footage and I'll be like, oh God.
Oh, there's got to be somebody who's got some for sure out there. There's absolutely got to be. Michelle, as we start wrapping up right now, first off, obviously congratulations for the new experience racing Louisville. I think it's going to be really awesome, and what a cool experience to be able to be part of something brand new and everything like that. Especially at this point in your career. If there's anybody out there who wants to kind of know more a little bit about what your journey is going to be at Louisville and stuff like that, where's the best place on social media for them to follow you?
Instagram, Twitter, all the normal channels. But yeah, no, I'm so excited. I think it's going to be such a good year, and I really feel like part of something special here. So I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah. And as we all know, guys, we can follow Omar Zini at @ProGKAcademy_ on Instagram. Saskia, you've got a little announcement because you've got a little panel going on tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah, we do. ACFC is getting together with the NWSL. We're doing it's Black History Month, so you can go to Angel City's email and website and everything, and come on. I'm going to be the moderator for the first time ever. God knows how that's going to go, because obviously I like to talk, but it's going to be amazing. We have some amazing NWSL players coming on, talk about their experiences, and please sign on. Please come check it out.
So, and shout out to the league and to ACFC, obviously for putting this whole program together during this time period. I think it's really awesome that we're getting to hear these experiences, and people are going to be, humble and open and honest about their experiences and things that we can do to, better the experience for everyone involved out there.
I mean, look, I didn't have that when I was playing. So, at all. So I think it's incredibly important for everybody to educate themselves and listen to these players and their stories, and whether positive or negative, it's a growing experience, and we all need to get better, period.
Yep. And obviously, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Shout out to, I forgot who it was, but somebody reached out and asked about doing something about balance. And then, after watching a little bit of Michelle, I was like, oh my gosh, she's the perfect person to have on for this. And I reached out to you and I was like, would you want to do this show or whatever? And you're like, of course. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
Yeah, so, of course. Thank you for having me.
No, Michelle, definitely be watching, kick some butt. And I definitely want one of those sweatshirts.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Yep, we'll get on it.
I know.
Come to Louisville.
I say Michelle told on herself earlier on. She said the gear just keeps coming in. So I mean, hey.
Exactly. I'm like, well, if it's coming in.
It's a women's large. Let me know your address. I can send you all.
Did I say I was 6 feet? I meant 5'8". I'm sorry.
We'll have to do a jersey exchange, Angel City and Racing Louisville.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.